All right, so as I mentioned before, we're hitting the connect part of our presentation. And you'll hear from several people, including starting with myself, kind of talking about how I got involved with the MIT REAP program and Accelerate Kentucky. Um, as you see, I got a picture of my logo up there. I run a accelerator in Lexington. It's actually a virtual accelerator as well. And I've been helping startups and entrepreneurs consistently for the last 6 years. Before that, I was doing normal existing business consulting for about 5 years. Before that, I was in financials, so it's kind of been a trajectory. But when I started working with entrepreneurs and startups, I kind of caught the bug. I liked the culture, I liked the energy, and they were easier to coach than, some old CEO who, didn't want to make any changes. So that's kind of how I got started in the whole consulting business. We'll move through here's my part pretty quickly. Let's see who we are. I can't even read it. Oh, I can get over here. We're a professional consulting organization, which is a virtual accelerator disrupting and improving the lives of startups and entrepreneurs with scalable businesses. And Allison mentioned scalable because scalable businesses are the ones, not that all small businesses don't need help, but scalable businesses are the ones that are going to change the landscape and change economic development. She touched on that. Tony touched on that. So there's a lot to that. At the same time, we make investors of all kinds happy because we help improve our clients' businesses and the chance of obtaining funding significantly. Our goal is to develop the best companies for success and funding. And we also provide consulting for existing businesses that need our services. We have over 14 plus consecutive years of C-level experience in multiple industries while working with companies from all stages of development, and can't read that myself. So let's keep moving. I don't want to get stuck on me. So what we do, business consulting, funding, and we partner. That's kind of key with us. One of the things that I learned as I got to raising capital and taking, spent 20 nights in New York one year, maybe 20 nights in Silicon Valley one year, was the fact that there were gaps in the system. I mean, there's reasons only less than 1% of companies seeking funding get funding. And those reasons are the current systems, not just locally, but nationwide, do not do the things necessary to help really good, solid startups move forward. And so that was kind of our mission from this, is to be able to help those individuals, those companies, have a better chance of succeeding. Here's a list of some of the things that we do, and it's a combination of our strategic partners as well as us in-house, and it's just a list of kind of all the things that we are able to work with and help companies with. And we've done this both locally and nationally. And we're pleased to announce that we recently just launched our nonprofit, Empire Builders Foundation. And we created our foundation with the mission of helping minority, women, and the underprivileged startups and entrepreneurs build, grow, and expand their capabilities through free or subsidized education, consulting, services, and collaboration. One of the things that we've realized is there are major gaps in the tech world when it comes to helping entrepreneurs of all types. And that includes both minorities, women, and people from rural backgrounds and people who aren't born with a silver spoon in their mouth. And move forward. Now I'm going to kind of go into some lessons we learned from MIT dealing with diversity and inclusion. And before you start sighing or going, one of the big things about diversity and inclusion, it's not just black or white or male or female. And truth be told, we all have more in common than we have different. And there's a list of things that if you'll see, and that list could have been a mile long actually. Agriculture versus innovation, manufacturing, old school manufacturing versus technology, rural versus urban, Chevy versus Ford. Now you got Ram versus Chevy and Ford. It used to be Chrysler was a death blow. Now it's kind of came up a little bit. So traditional versus digital. Hardee's coffee for the old folks who like to go eat breakfast and sit at Hardee's versus Starbucks. Poor versus rich. Bootcut jeans versus skinny jeans. And the last one could be a toss-up, really. Andy Griffith versus The Office. If you're under a certain age, The Office is your go-to show. But if you're over a certain age, there's nothing better than Barney Fife and Andy Griffith. And I bring this up because one of the things that MIT REAP taught me, and as well as the group, by us being part of a global program, was how diversity and inclusion affected every other country that was in the program. I got asked to speak to a group out of Sydney, Australia, a lady by the name of Helen Palmer. And when I got to talking to them, they had a ton of questions for me. They wanted to know what we were doing in the States versus what they were doing. And what got real interesting was she's in Sydney, but she also served the rural community outside Sydney, Australia. And they had a lot of similarities to what we deal with in Kentucky. It was like, how do we get the farmers to come to the meetings, to come do this? They don't relate to the guys wearing skinny jeans, drinking lattes. They wear, they're hardworking agriculturalists. And, one of the things that we talked about and really related to was innovation can change for any industry. Innovation can change your dynamics for any industry. Same as far as technology. We just went through a major pandemic, and let me tell you, I bet there's not a person in this room does not know of several restaurants that went out of business. And many of those restaurants were local. They did not have a digital presence. They did not have a website or an app. They wasn't able to connect with their customers during the pandemic. And they may have held on another 5, 10 years without the pandemic, but instead they closed their doors. And if you look at all the successful industries, successful companies in all industries, the ones on the cusp of technology in their industry, they didn't just make it through, they thrived. Amazon, Jeff Bezos, in 6 months, he made all the money he lost in his divorce. And that's a lot of money. You're talking billions of dollars. But Amazon was, because they were ahead of the curve, were able to just keep on going and increase business immediately. Same thing for Walmart. Look at other companies like Chick-fil-A. They can't find enough chickens to serve you those chicken sandwiches. When you look at diversity and inclusion, sometimes we get a very narrow focus because of what we hear in the media and the news. But really, we got to deal with UK versus Louisville. We got to deal with, people don't want to go from one city to the next, Lexington versus Louisville. As Rusty was saying a minute ago, dang, I got to come to your meeting in Lexington? Can't you have it in Winchester? Because, we're very territorial. We like our areas. We like the way we live. We like the things that we have in our own areas. But to thrive and to do some of the things that Phil talked about, that Tony brought up about the storytelling and whatnot, we've got to get out and we've got to embrace these things. If you're not embracing innovation and technology, and trust me, when we also spoke with a group out of Africa and a group, Eva Panetti, out of Italy. And if you're not embracing technology, you're dying. If you're not figuring out how to rebrand, remarket, redo your company, you're going to die. It's just that simple. Now, the pandemic kind of sped that along, but now's the time to think about that and think about how to improve your business and be supportive of how we try to improve these other businesses that we're talking about. Our goal is to be a vessel to change this environment, to change Kentucky, not in a bad way. We want to embrace everything we're good at. We want to embrace horse racing. Trust me, I used to spend way too much money at Keeneland. We want to embrace bourbon. I've spent too much money on bourbon too. And but we also got to embrace technology and finding new and better ways to do things. And like Allison said about the elephants, we need to create our own. It's not that we can't recruit big companies, but if we change our culture, create our own, that will actually make more big companies want to come here. If they see us being innovative, starting companies here, getting more talent, and that's huge, getting more talent in the state or staying in the state, that can change the dynamics for us as far as being able to serve not only our state, but our communities, and making them successful and making them grow and be strong and vibrant. So again, one of the reasons I got involved with this team was because of the unique format and the things that MIT REAP was teaching us, along with trying to make a difference. And if we can all make a difference just a little bit here and there, it can change the landscape for the state, your communities, and for companies that either you're involved with, you invest in, or if you're working with them through government resources. We're here to connect, inform, and inspire those efforts to take it to another level.